Welcome. Thank you for having us here and for talking about this. Chairwoman Harburg, is it Chairwoman, is it Doherty?
Daughtry.
Daughtry, close enough. Thank you. And members of the committee, for the opportunity to share my perspective on the important piece of legislation. My name's Rob Brown. I live in Randolph. I am a small business owner here locally. I'm also a certified tech. I have two of my certified technicians with me today. I'm extremely fortunate to be able to enjoy the outdoors through my business, Clark Marine, which owns and operates 3 locations across Maine, Manchester, and Monmouth, and Belgrade. We service between 2,800 and 3,000 boats, mostly locally, and engines each season, and we help to keep families out on the water, enjoying the precious time we have each year to use their boats. I offer this background because I can testify firsthand the effects of the so-called right to repair legislation would have on my business and my customers. Marine engines can become very serious liability if modified incorrectly. It is absolutely critical that certified technicians make any modifications or repairs to these engines, because if a technician who is not up to date with manufacturer repair and or service practices, they could unwittingly be putting the user and their families at risk when they are out on the water. Even something as simple as installing the wrong spark plug can cause irreparable damage to the engine. Several times during the year, we'll have boats brought in for service that have had incorrect spark plugs installed, many times by non-certified shops. In many cases, by just installing the incorrect or will-fit spark plug can cause damage, performance, and also make the engine non-compliant with emission standards. So, when we inspect the engine, we can even smell raw gasoline residue that has been built up. Anyone can change spark plugs, but only a certified technician can understand why it matters to each specific engine. This is just one simple, but though common mistake that we see coming from non-compliant technicians. Another would be will fit. Somebody brought up starters. If you put a non-compliant starter in a stern drive, that becomes a very high explosion hazard. So, and it's done by somebody going to Napa, picking up a wool starter, and that's where the problem begins. Boaters depend on their equipment to operate properly when they're enjoying their time on the water, but this bill could cause boaters to be stranded out on the water without a working engine to get them back home. This would damage the confidence of consumers, put manufacturers and dealers in my industry. Recreational boating is the largest economic contributor to the outdoor recreation industry in Maine, contributing nearly $3 billion to the state's GDP. As we all know, there is no shortage of ways to enjoy Maine's beautiful outdoors. Introducing this legislation will push consumers out of our market and into other forms of recreation, dramatically affecting seasonal businesses like mine. Simply put, certified technicians provide insight that non-certified dealers cannot. They are educated, experienced experts in their field. When we want something fixed that would affect our lives, we go to someone who is trained in the field to repair it. Why then would we pass a bill that would potentially put boaters and their families at risk? Furthermore, as an industry, we are striving to give the consumer a better experience by having certified technicians work on specific engines and keep them out on the water and spending less time in the shop. I appreciate your consideration of these concerns and respectfully ask the committee to oppose LD 1977. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Do we have any questions from the committee? Representative Moriarty?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Brown, I'm glad that we've moved from cell phones and personal devices to boats. It helps me understand the situation a little bit more easily. Just a quick question for you. If a boat owner, for whatever reason, wants to take a shot at making a repair himself or herself, or going to somebody who has no idea what they're doing, don't they do that at their own risk? And how does that adversely affect you if they do take that step?
One, I think it adversely affects my industry every time Channel 13 has an article on where a boat has burned to the ground. They don't talk about how they put an insufficient starter in. People that are watching that only see the boat burning, and they hear about the fatalities. So that's how it, I think, affects this industry as a whole, as making it look like a dangerous venture, I guess you'd say. That would be one example I would give.
Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony, Mr. Brown.
Thank you very much.
Do we have anyone else who would like to testify in opposition to LD 1977?
All right, so when it comes to the boat industry, I'm going to ask questions and I'm going to give ideas. But I'm not going to say that anything that he said specifically is not true. It bothers me when charlatans that call themselves lobbyists show up and talk about my industry as if they know everything about it when they clearly don't. So I'm not going to do that with the boat industry. I don't work on boats. I don't service boats. I don't drive boats. The last time I was even on a boat was 2009 when I was living in Staten Island and I was taking the ferry there. So I'm not going to pretend to know this guy's industry. I don't like when people do it to me. I'm not going to do it to him. But there are a few things that I would like to bring up here. The first is that when he talks about the dangers of having someone work on their own boat, it does somewhat bring up the question to me of what about people working on their own car? Because I brought up an AutoZone example, and I'll include it here.
Now, the next thing that comes up is dangers. It is dangerous to have unauthorized people work on these products. One of my employees is a mechanic. He worked as a mechanic for about 25 years, and he showed me an AutoZone commercial that came out last year. It's called I Did It. And in the commercial, you have 4 different families working on a car, and it's implied that they're working on this car for the first time. The one that struck me the most is seeing this mom-daughter duo, which the girl is like probably 14 years old, and she's helping her mom lift the car up onto a jack so that they could change the brake pads, the part that allows this 4,000-pound hunk of metal to stop. We are okay doing that because we are a nation that takes pride in self-sufficiency. We take pride in our ability to fix problems and service our own personal property.
AutoZone is a company that sells auto parts, and they seem to be actively encouraging novices with that commercial, I Did It, to try and work on their own cars, to build up the courage of and confidence of novices. And I'm not saying that it's a good idea that someone who is completely clueless work on their own stuff without becoming educated. But what I'm saying is that we have already accepted as a society that, oh, you have a 4,000-pound vehicle that can go 80 miles an hour. Yeah, go ahead, work on it yourself. So I don't understand how that doesn't apply here. Perhaps there's more danger with boats. Perhaps there's more at stake with a boat than with a car. I don't know. I haven't seen the statistics regarding fires and crash. I leave that to the audience to come up with your own ideas there. The next thing, and this is something that I do somewhat sympathize with, is when he says that people don't even look into why a boat went on fire. They just simply see boat went on fire on Channel 13 and go, nope. Not doing that when I'm on vacation. And one of the people that I was sitting there with in the room said, you know, I've genuinely never seen that before. I did some Googling of, you know, boat going on fire. And, you know, there's a fishing boat burns in Portland, Maine. There were Lincoln County Times, fire, guts, lobster boat. And there's some stuff out there. But I can't find a lot of it regarding boats going on fire. But the critical point here is he said that when people see that, they just assume that what we do and what we sell is unsafe and they don't want to go near it, regardless of the actual details. And I understand that, and I can respect that because I've dealt with it in my own industry. The reason that I get so aggravated and pissed off when people advocate for reflowing a dead graphics chip as a fix to a GPU, it's not because I want to get money for high price repairs. It's that when that repair shop offers that reflow, charges their customer $200, it dies on day 35, they offer a 30-day warranty, the customer is not just going to hate that repair shop, they're going to hate repair people in general. And I think that there is something to be said about repair shops losing the trust of customers. When people show up at my store and they're staring over my shoulder and they're kind of unsure about whether or not I'm ripping them off or screwing them, or when I tell them something, if I have their best interest in mind, or if I did my job properly, it's really important that the customer have confidence in me. Because if any time something goes wrong, they assume it's because I screwed up and didn't do my job properly, we're going to have a bad relationship. And when I have a bad relationship with my customer, I'm not able to service their products properly. And it does bother me when people show up who are very much on edge, not because of what I did, but because of their own past experiences. Whether they had bad experiences with a mechanic, a contractor, or another person who services electronics. It hurts everyone in the industry when someone in the industry treats a customer like shit and does a bad job. That's why I think it's so important to speak out against the crap in my industry, to clean up my corner of the industry, so that we're not dealing with people that have no trust in us. It's important that my customers trust me, and if I want their trust, I have to earn it, not just through what I do, but how I make sure that my industry in and of itself is a clean industry, so that they don't wind up going to some other store a few days before they show up to mine and losing all confidence enough as an industry. If somebody long screw damages their phone and then says, oh yeah, it was like that when you brought it to me, sorry, not helping you, of course that person's not going to trust anybody in my industry. And of course they're going to be on edge when they show up to my shop because they got screwed already. I feel for that. I really do. But does that mean that that shop shouldn't be in business? And this is where it gets difficult. I like the fact that there's accountability. I like the fact that if you do suck in this industry, it will become obvious very quickly. Your Yelp and your Google reviews and your Facebook reviews will be crap, and I believe that will lead to less people using you. Now, the next thing that comes up here is how easy is it to become authorized in servicing boats? So, and he's saying, because of the risks and the difficulties involved, it makes, it's important that people who are certified have access to these tools. What is it like to become certified in working on the boats that his business works on versus what my business works on? So in my business, let's take this motherboard, right? So let's say I actually go through all the effort to become an Apple authorized service provider. I pay them all their money. I take all their tests. I can't fix this because they're not going to give me a schematic. They're not going to give me the chips I need. I cannot buy an ISL 6259 from Apple. I cannot buy a schematic from Apple. I cannot buy anything I need to fix that board from Apple, nor will they allow me to purchase it from the companies that make it for them. They're not going to allow me to get around their exclusivity agreements that preclude their suppliers from selling me parts to fix that board. I could become an Apple authorized service provider, and it means nothing. And I've went over this in the past. I went over it in this other video that I did that you can see here, where I showed you that even if you do enter their independent repair provider program, you're still not able to get most parts, and the few parts you can get are under such restrictive, ridiculous terms that nobody's going to be your customer. What if in the boat industry it's different? I don't know. And I'm not going to pretend to know. I'm not going to pretend or assume that I understand this gentleman's industry. I'm not going to be against everything he said just because he is against the bill. I'd really like to understand where he's coming from here, so that I can be better informed, so that the next time I show up at one of these hearings, I can say, well, here's something that you should consider in response to this, rather than just shooting off at the mouth with something that I am clueless about. I would like to educate myself as to what it's like to become certified here. Does he have a point there? Because if becoming certified and working on the marine products and boats and whatnot that he sells and services is something that is simple to do, or even if it's difficult to do but it's possible, then that's different. If you can become certified to work on a boat and it doesn't cost you multiple millions of dollars and you're able to actually get the parts and the diagrams and the manuals that you need to do your job, then maybe from his point of view, I don't get why these people are asking for this. Why are they asking for this? Why don't they just become certified? Maybe in his industry, becoming certified, unlike in my industry, actually means something. Maybe when he becomes certified, he's actually able to get the tools to do his job. But I do have to push back just a little bit on what he's saying, even if I agree with the general concept of not liking the charlatans in our industry to make everybody look bad. I have to push back a little bit just because, again, if you look at that AutoZone commercial, we as a society are totally okay with you fixing your own car. And I don't see why with a boat that has to be something that is different. If someone tries to fix a boat and if they try to fix someone else's boat and they don't have the proper licensing, I am sure that the Department of Consumer Affairs and the law is going to come down very hard on that person, the same way that the law in my area will come down very hard on me if my electronics and home appliance service dealer license expires. That's something that is still built into the law there. You need to be licensed to offer this type of work commercially. And if you're not licensed to have this to offer this work commercially, that doesn't stop you from working on your own device, whether or not this law passes. Another point, and this is getting a little long now, is that he said that there are boats that are going on fire, right? Well, these are boats that are going on fire without the bill. I really do sympathize when he says that, we see like gasoline where it shouldn't be and people installing stuff improperly. Like, I hate that. You see the response that I have when I see that a DCN cable was installed upside down or that they put the long screw in the short hole. He seems like one of those people that looks at the work that charlatans do and gets pissed at it the same way that I do. So this person, even if he is lobbying against the bill that I support, I think we do have some common ground there. It's not like I'm just dealing with some soulless lobbyist. He's reading off of a script, but he's reading off of a script that he prepared, that he wrote himself based on his experience in the industry, and I can respect that even if we may have disagreements in other areas. But what do you think? If you work on boats, if you sell boats, if you maintain boats, if you buy or ride boats, I really am curious because, again, I have no experience with boats, and I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments down below. Thank you.